If you have leopard geckos, then odds are you probably use one of these Tupperware type dishes as your moist hide. I know I do, but it kind of ruins the aesthetic of the enclosure if you spend a lot of time decorating it and giving your leopard gecko plenty of options to climb around on and everything. Then you've got this ugly plastic container sitting in your enclosure. Well, I get tired of looking at them, so I came up with a way to cover it. I made a little bamboo hut to go over the top of it. So which would you rather look at? If you want to know how I made this, stay tuned. I bought this bamboo at Lowe's in the garden section, and they're selling them as plant stakes. So I got six-foot poles for like $4, and I cut 2 of them up into the pieces, the sizes that I'm going to need. I pre-measured and cut and split everything in advance, and then I soaked it all in a vinegar and water solution overnight to clean it, and then I disinfected it with F10. Just because they were selling them as garden stakes, I wasn't sure if maybe they were treated with anything or not, so I wanted to be safe and make sure they were nice and clean. This is the typical size of container that I use for the leopard gecko moist hides, and I went ahead and marked where I normally cut it out just for measurement purposes, but this is one that I use for a lay box for the crested geckos, so excuse it if it's a little bit dirty. But I'm going to be putting this together with just Elmer's glue because it's just going to go into a dry enclosure. I don't have to worry about any moisture getting to it or anything and dissolving the glue. And I've also got a couple of pieces of sandpaper, so if I have any raw edges left over, I can run over them with the sandpaper to make sure I don't have anything sharp that the geckos might rub up against. So these are the sizes that I cut for my sidewalls, and then I also pre-cut sizes for the braces that's going to hold the side pieces together, and I also pre-cut my roof. And I have a couple of extra pieces that I went ahead and disinfected, but they're not cut to any specific length, just in case I need extra. So move this out of the way, and I'm actually going to measure the lid to my marking, which it looks like it's right at about 4.5 inches. So that's what I need my first wall to be, is 4.5 inches. So I'm going to take a bunch of my sidewall pieces, and I'm going to lay them out with the rounded side down. I split these. You don't have to split this into such small pieces, but I really wanted it to be less bulky in the enclosure, so I made them into small pieces. So it does take quite a while to cut and split this, so it depends on how big your enclosure is and how bulky you want this to look. I'm going to take my braces, and you can see I left them a little bit longer than what I needed, so when I measure it up against the back wall, I'm not going to be short. And I'm just going to stick some glue on there. give the glue a chance to set up. So I went ahead and just finished all the sides off camera so you wouldn't have to watch me do the same steps over and over again. So while I'm waiting for the last side to dry, I'm going to just connect these, start connecting the wall pieces together, but I'm not going to use this to connect it. I've got another box here that I'm going to use just so I can square it up, make sure it's nice and square. I'm just going to use these clips and hold it to the box. So so that way we can make sure that they're square. I'm taking some larger pieces and I'm just going to glue them to the corners to connect the corners. We're going to let that set, and I'll be back. Okay, I've got all the corner caps on, and I also put caps on the tops just because my pieces are uneven and I wanted to have an even space or an even place to glue the top on. So that's what we're going to do right now. So you can see I'm not quite square, but I had to push the front out a little bit. It didn't quite make it long enough. So I'm going to improvise a little bit and just find another small piece to put in there to cover that gap up. Well, it doesn't quite look as good as I would hope, but it looks better than the box itself. One more piece on the end here. Okay, we're going to let the glue set up one last time, and then the final step is just to try to sand off some of these rough edges. Now that all the glue is set, I'm going to take a piece of sandpaper, and this isn't like sanding wood. Bamboo splinters so easy, so you can only go in one direction with the sandpaper. And all I'm really doing is making sure there's no sharp edges and there's nothing sticking out that could possibly poke an eye or anything like that. Here's a perfect example of what I'm trying to get rid of. There's a sharp edge right there, and I'm just going to sand across it to round it off. Okay, that's pretty much it. Now you don't have to look at these ugly Tupperware containers anymore. Fits right over the top of it. And be sure and check out my other DIY videos. I do a lot of videos making stuff for my animals. I do it some to save money and some just because I enjoy doing it. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.